Hello, this is Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Welcome home.
Soaring to tower. We are ready for takeoff.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey, it's Amy from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey Clubbers, it's Scott from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, it's Kathleen from DVC Clubhouse.
Welcome aboard. It's Phil from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Debrief podcast brought to you by DVC Clubhouse. This is Amy, joined by one of my co-hosts, Phil. Hey Phil.
Welcome aboard, guys. We're still without Scott and Kathleen, but in full disclosure, we recorded last week's episode about 4 minutes ago, so they're still not available tonight. But Kathleen will be back from the other side of the international date line by the time you hear this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of, I don't know if she feels like it's flown by, but I feel like it's flown by, that like it doesn't feel like she's been there for that long in Alaska.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, it seems like a long time, but it has been fairly quick, hasn't it? Like, and I know in her mind it has not been quick. She just wants to come home. Like, I'm sure it's been dragging, but it does seem like the last few months just flew by. I was talking with someone today. We were talking about watching kids grow up, and I said, someone once told me the days are long, but the years are short. And boy, the older I get, the more that seems to be the case.
It's so true. And I mean, I have a daughter graduating high school in a month and another daughter who's finishing her junior year of college. And I was looking at some pictures of them when they were little from at my mom's house today. And it's like, I feel like that all just happened. I can't it does kind of feel like a lifetime ago, but it also feels like it just happened. Like it's like the memory is so vivid in my mind that it's really hard to believe. Time is crazy like that.
I was looking at pictures of my kids, and it's like, that could not have been that long ago. And you look at just how much they've grown up in the last few years. You're like, they look like completely different human beings, but it feels like it was just yesterday.
It's so true. Well, just like it feels like it was just yesterday that we talked about dining at.
Well, I mean, in our defense,
meal.
It wasn't just yesterday. It was just a few minutes ago, but we seem to be, we must be hungry. I know I started dinner before we started recording. Maybe that's what it is. We're talking food again.
Yeah, you said meatloaf, and then all of a sudden, that's all we've been talking about is food.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of which, I actually booked 50's
Primetime Cafe
for the kids because they wanted to do it. And it's the first time we'll ever go there. It feels like everyone I talk to, like, that's always one of the places that's on their early visit list. And in 10, 15, however many years, we have never been there. We're going to try it for the first time. So we'll have to compare their meatloaf to mine. I'm not giving it much of a shot. My meatloaf is pretty damn good.
Yeah, that is a restaurant that I feel like to me, it is like quintessentially Disney. And it does feel like a restaurant that you should do like on your first trip, or, early on in your Disney journey, because it's just like the whole theme of it. And the fact that the wait staff is like your family members and they're yelling at you to clean up. Like you go there for that experience. The food is fine. I would, of the two restaurants in Hollywood Studios that are kind of like the OG restaurants that are kind of like kitschy like that, I would pick 50's Primetime Cafe a million times over Sci-Fi Dine-In.
Well, that's good to know.
Have you ever eaten at Sci-Fi Dine-In?
No, we've never eaten at Sci-Fi, and I'll actually mention a different Hollywood Studios restaurant when we get into the episode, because it's on the list based on what we're going to talk about. So I'll hold off on that.
All right. Well, I'm gonna dive into it with Sci-Fi Dine-In, because that is, and in case our listeners have not caught on, we are talking
I've not
about
sussed it out because we didn't actually say what we were talking about. We're just going to talk about it.
Yeah, we are talking about restaurants where we've like either never eaten or will never eat again. Um, and so sci-fi dine-in, I have given it probably 3 chances. It is, I, I will never eat there again. I cannot stand that place. I know people love it. I know people think it's cool. I know that kids think it's cool to sit in the car, but I do not enjoy sitting in the car. I don't enjoy being able to speak to my entire dining party while I'm having my meal. The food quality is terrible. It's dark. There's like nothing about that experience that is appealing to me.
Just
I
nothing
will
that
never,
recommends it, not a single
like,
thing.
like, I will never, ever go there again.
Like ambiance, 1 star, food, 1 star, service, 1 star, people, 1 star.
Yeah. And I mean, I get that it's like kind of a cute concept and that there are people who just will fall in love with the concept and think it's great. It's not for me. That concept is not for me. Does not, I don't look at mealtime as like a chance to have a cute experience. I want it to be a stellar experience in every aspect. So, no thank you to sci-fi dining.
I think that's where you and I are very similar, and one of the reasons we've never gone to 50s primetime before. Like, all right, I can get meatloaf. All right, I can get typical diner, make it at home fare. I can do that at home, and chances are I can probably do it better. I'm a pretty excellent chef. I can make some amazing things. I grew up in a family that cooked for a living. So when I go out to eat, I want a good meal. I don't want an experience. I'll do it for the kids, but I want a good meal. And there was just nothing about 50s primetime to me that said you're going to have a great meal here. It's you're going to get some adequate meatloaf and have a good day.
So, the first time I dined there, I was like 14 years old and I loved it because it was like something that I'd never experienced before. It was new, it was fun. It was like the type of comfort food that a 14-year-old would enjoy eating. Um, but I've only been back a handful of times, and each time it was at the request of my kids, and especially when they were younger. And then the last time we went was because it was the trip that my kids both brought friends, and they picked it because they thought that it was like the fun kind of first timer Disney experience that they wanted their friends to experience, and so that's why we went. And it, like, the food was fine. There's like, it's not bad. It's not like the food I've had at Sci-Fi Dine-In where I'm like, oh my god, this is so terrible. And also, it's so dark in there that I can't even tell if what I'm eating is actually what I think I'm eating.
And you wonder if that's on purpose.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you'll definitely you won't have that experience at 50s prime time. And I think your kids will probably definitely get a kick out of it.
Well, I hope they get a kick out of it because there's a few meals coming up that I'm not really looking forward to, but we let them have the choice. So if we're talking about going to a restaurant and paying for the experience over the food, I am going to group one class of restaurants together with one stunning example of we'll never eat at again. Your typical, and there's maybe one or two exceptions. I think 1900 Park Fair may have been the one exception where I felt like I had good food, but just your character dining buffets, Crystal Palace, Hollywood and Vine, Slime, whatever you want to call it, just not good meals, not particularly warm. Nothing was really fresh. A whole lot of people touching the food before you get to it just turns me off. Buffets are not for me. I'm not a buffet guy. You spend an inordinate amount of money to hopefully have the characters come by your table. We've had issues with that as well, with characters being held up and having to wait forever to get the last one through. But the ultimate bad experience for me, and Scott's going to scream when I say this, and we've talked about it before. I had such an awful experience at Chef Mickey's. Not just I had a bad experience, something wasn't right, they had an off night, it was really bad, but maybe we'll try it again. It was such a terrible, horrible, disgusting, dirty, nasty experience at Chef Mickey's. I will never, ever, ever grace that restaurant with my presence again. It was terrible. It was so bad we will never, ever go back. Period. End of sentence.
I have only eaten there twice. The first time was on again, that first trip that I ever went. I was 14 years old. We were staying at the Contemporary. We did a character meal there. And then the second time I went was on a trip that I went on. It was actually the trip that I went on with my ex-husband when we got engaged. And it was his first time. And I was like, thought that I should introduce him to like the things that I did on my first time. And so we went to Chef Mickey's, and like he was miserable because it was an early reservation. The Super Bowl had been on the night before. We were like out, like he drank too much, was miserable at Chef Mickey's, being like, what am I doing here? Flailing napkins over my head. Like, why would you do this to me? So yeah. So I mean, and I haven't been back since then, because it's just that whole Grand Canyon concourse, like that is not for me either. Like dining in there, it just feels like cavernous and echoey and loud and chaotic. Honestly, I think that that's probably why they removed the steakhouse from there, because like, how could anyone
Yeah,
feel
who
like they
wants
were
to
going to
spend
have?
that kind of money at a decent steakhouse to go inside of that disaster?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm totally with you on character dining buffets. I am also not a buffet person. I don't seek them out. I think that they're expensive. I will never eat as much food as I'm paying for at a buffet. If I am going to do a buffet, it's going to be the character breakfast at Beach Club. It is the least expensive character dining experience you can do. And it's like very good, solid, like breakfast food.
Yeah, we did it many years ago when the kids were really little and we were staying at Beach Club. And it wasn't bad, but how do you screw up breakfast food? Like, that's really difficult to do. And they do it fairly well there.
And I've never been to Tusker House. Well, that's not true. I haven't been to Tusker House since they turned it into a buffet. It used to not be a buffet.
Tusker House breakfast, I will attest to being the exception to the rule. That is without a doubt the best breakfast buffet I have ever visited. It was huge selection. Everything was fresh. I would do Tusker House breakfast over Beach Club breakfast all day long. It was one of the few excellent buffet experiences we had.
That is, I definitely need to get there at some point. I just don't see a scenario where I'm prioritizing like going there, especially because it's in a park. And if I'm going to Animal Kingdom, I would rather get into Nomad Lounge at 11 than Tusker House, like, at 9. So and I know I should try it, and maybe I will sometime, but I don't know. Again, buffets are just not a priority for me. So
Yeah, I think for us, it comes down to I think I've mentioned it before. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't mind paying for excellent dining. Whether it's at home or on vacation, I will pay for good food. There is just something that totally messes me up about what Disney gets for breakfast food, whether it's a crappy Mickey waffle platter at the quick serve or a breakfast buffet. The one meal almost every single day we have in the room is breakfast, because the kids can have bagels, they can have waffles, they can have whatever they want. But going downstairs to the quick serve and getting 4 little, crappy reconstituted scrambled eggs and frozen sausage and Mickey waffle breakfast, and it's $90. You're like, what did I just pay for? I can go get a really good table service for dinner for $200. I just spent $90 to be grossly disappointed with quick service takeout for breakfast. So we typically don't do breakfast, period.
And every single one of the resorts has that bounty breakfast
The
sampler
insane
that
bounty
has
platter.
all of the things that you have on a typical breakfast buffet for like $9 or $11 or whatever it is. And you can also get a kids meal that is like just a smaller version of that. So yeah, I'm because I'm also not a person who's looking to spend my dining dollars on breakfast either. And if I am going to get breakfast, it's going to be a kids meal.
Agreed.
Just like something light to start the day.
All right, well, I'll jump in with one that we have said for years we are going to try just because it's there and we walk by it all the time and the kids want to. I'll bet you we've had it on our plans and or booked a dozen times over the years, and we have never eaten there. and that's Rose and Crown in Epcot. The kids love the look of it. They love that you can look out over the water, that there's so much activity there, and we always say we're going to try it, and we've never once set foot inside of that restaurant. It just always seems to fall prey to all of the other restaurants that are near it that just seem to have better food.
I have not eaten at the Rose and Crown post COVID, and part of the reason is because you remember when these restaurants reopened, the menus were all like a fraction of the size
Super
as what they
trimmed
used to
down.
be. And anytime I look at the menu at Rose and Crown, they have not beefed it up again. It is still a small menu and with very limited options. And
There are 4 entrees, literally 4 entrees.
right,
I'm looking at it now.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of the issue is that it's just so limited. I have dined there in the past and I have very fond memories there. Again, I don't think that I've had like the greatest meal in the world. Like it's definitely not like the best food I've had at Disney, but it's kind of like a fun environment with a group and like, particularly like a group of adults is like typically how I've done it, and then like we'll maybe then afterwards like go into the pub and have a, continue our experience there and have a pint. So it is one that I've often thought, I should get back there, but I think that also the thing that has happened with Epcot is because there's always a festival going on. I just never make reservations at Epcot. I just dine around the world eating the snacks, and it is something like I do kind of miss. And we've talked about this in the past when we've talked about festivals. I kind of miss Epcot being what it was meant, like what it originally was just like the countries, and then having a festival to like that happens as like a special event one time a year.
Right. The festivals were supplementary, not the whole core reason for being for Epcot.
Right. And now, I mean, Epcot, like it's always packed in World Showcase because of the festivals, because there's always lines at these booths. And I mean, they certainly draw a crowd, which is why Disney does them. But it has definitely changed the dynamic of World Showcase and how you would experience it. And when I think back to my first visit, going up to those kiosks, like those screens in Spaceship Earth, and making your
dining reservation. Yeah.
And like picking a restaurant at, World Showcase. Like I've dined, I think at almost every restaurant in World Showcase, but it's been a long time since I've dined in most of them. So, I have dined at Chefs de France somewhat recently, like when I say recently, I mean like post-COVID era. And I've dined at Shikisai. You've been there, right?
We did Shikisai. I thought it was good. I didn't think I was blown away by it, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was bad in any way, but it just didn't knock my socks off. And I'm really picky about my sushi. We have a couple of local restaurants that are just phenomenal, and it's very difficult for anywhere to compete with those. And Shikisai I thought was just trying a little too hard.
Yeah, that's on my list of like, I'll probably never eat there again. And again, it's not because it was terrible, but it was just because it was fine. I think the best part of it is if you can get a table by the window overlooking World Showcase Lagoon, that definitely is, that creates kind of like a reason to be there, is that you're enjoying this beautiful view away from the crowd in air conditioning. But overall, the meal was just fine. So, I think like if I'm wanting to get sushi at Disney, I'm either going to go to California Grill or Kimonos, because I think Kimonos actually has very good sushi.
It's funny you say that, because I was thinking that I think Rose and Crown suffers from the fact that they're right next to International Gateway. And if I look at what the options are stepping just outside of International Gateway, I can't justify Rose and Crown, because there's a lot of very good restaurants, not amazing, but a lot of very good restaurants in and around Crescent Lake that I would much rather patronize than going to Rose and Crown for one of the 4 entrees they have on the menu.
And especially because one of the entrees is fish and chips, which you can get at the Yorkshire fish shop or whatever it's called. I do think it's different. I don't think that the fish and chips are the same, but it's same concept. So if that's like something that you have a hankering for, you can get it at the, quick service counter.
The only time we've ever done the Yorkshire was years ago. Luke got sick, and we had to abandon Animal Kingdom. I think I've told the horrible Festival of the Lion King story.
Yes.
It was, by the way, the first year, like the first months that Flights of Passage was available, and I had fast passes for it, and we couldn't do it. It was a whole thing. But we got back to Yacht Club, and we were starved, and I was like, "What are we going to eat?" And all the kids were eating at the time were like the fish stick, fish bites. I literally walked from Yacht Club into Epcot, got takeout on 2 trays from Yorkshire, and walked it back to Yacht Club so that the children would eat. It still cracks me up to this day to imagine myself with 2 trays just going into Epcot to get them fish and chips.
Oh, parenthood. So wait, there was a restaurant that just popped into my head that I thought of that I will never go to again, and now it just left my head. So I don't know. Do you have one?
I'm trying to think of if there's anywhere else that I would never go again. We've had some disappointing meals. Typically, I'm willing to give restaurants second tries on things as long as they don't disappoint me too badly. I will say that Blue Zoo is starting to get up there, and we've talked about it on a previous episode. And it's not because it's awful, but because it's just so darn inconsistent. You can show up and have an amazing meal, and then you can show up and have a really, really disappointing meal. And I just don't know that I want to handle the disappointment of Blue Zoo again. That like I'm walking in and I've got myself so hyped up for having this amazing meal and just walk out thinking I missed out on something. I think for me, inconsistency wrecks a restaurant more than one bad meal, with the exception of Chef Mickey's. You can burn in hell.
Well, I think that for me, the thing with Blue Zoo that makes it even worse is I remember what it used to be, and it used to be consistently excellent. And
Amazing.
now it's just and now it's just like kind of sad too. Like it's always empty. I feel like every other I feel like Blue Zoo has become the restaurant that you go to when you go to the Swan and Dolphin, and every other restaurant has no availability. Then you're like, oh well, the Blue Zoo's available, so I guess I'll go there. Which is a shame because it used to be it used to be a
Mobbed
draw.
and
Yeah.
crowded and just nuts every night. It was tough. I wouldn't say it was tough to get a reservation because it was off the beaten path, but now you could get a reservation any day, anytime, walk on in, and that was not the case before.
So hopping back to Epcot, 2 restaurants that I've never dined at are Garden Grill and Coral Reef. And I just can't imagine that I'm ever going to, because I just don't see the draw for either of those. Have you dined at either of those?
We've done both of them, actually. We did, I don't remember if it was breakfast or lunch with the kids at Garden Grill, but same thing, character dining. You got to spin around. When they were little, it was a big thing. Coral Reef, same thing. Little kids get to see the fish. It was a big deal. I'm going to use one of my favorite terms. I was neither underwhelmed nor overwhelmed. Both of them were just positively whelming to me. There's no reason to go back. There's no reason to avoid them. They just don't factor on our list anymore.
Yeah. Another one at Epcot that I will never, have not dined there. I've gone to the lounge, but I will never dine at is Space 220.
The kids have been asking, and I just can't justify it because all the reports that come back are the exact same thing. Like it was kind of a cool experience. The elevator ride was neat, but for what you paid, it was hugely disappointing. And I just don't want to spend that kind of money to be hugely disappointed in Epcot.
Yeah, I think that anytime you have a prefix, it needs to be an outstanding meal, because even with how much I love California Grill, I think that since it became a prefix menu, I've dined with a reservation twice. Every other time I go, I line up before it opens and I sit at the lounge and I order a la carte, because prefix is not the way I want to eat, and they're too expensive and it's too limiting. I want to be able to order what I want to order. So when you combined kind of like the gimmick of Space 220 with the fact that it's a prefix, that's just a non-starter for me. And with how it's difficult, you used to be able to just like walk up to the lounge, but now you need to make a reservation. You can't even get reservations there. So that is not even a restaurant that I actually like. The fact that I even remembered that it existed was just because I was like really focusing on Epcot and kind of going around, and then I was like, oh right, and there's that one, because it's so not top of mind for me, and because there's no availability, it never even comes up in a search. So it's like not like it's so far off my radar.
Prefix is such a weird animal because in my mind, prefix is either an amazing meal, which I've had, or it's a cop out to be lazy, which I've had. And I've had some amazing prefix menus. Like I would try Victoria and Albert's because I think it would be an experience. I have done Emerald's tasting menu with Emerald in the kitchen in New Orleans. That was an amazing meal. You live close to the city. Scarpetta's prefix tasting menu is one of the best meals I have ever had in my entire life. It was amazing. But I've also had prefix meals that were just them phoning it in and they knew they had a shtick like California Grill. You think of what California Grill used to be. It was a must visit for us. We couldn't wait to bring the kids when they were old enough. And now it's just their excuse to be really lazy in the kitchen and not push out the dishes they used to have. If I see prefix, unless it's a astounding restaurant, I'm just not interested.
I feel like with California Grill, they went to a prefix because people would go up, order an appetizer and a drink, and linger for a long time to watch the fireworks. And now they want to guarantee that they're getting more than just, $50 from somebody who's going to be occupying a table, which I understand. But I'd rather them say there's a minimum spend.
I was just thinking the same thing. You have a minimum. It's so much per person, or don't show up. I'm okay with that because I would have spent that for what California Grill used to be.
But I agree with you. When you're in a restaurant that's prefixed because it's a tasting menu and you're not selecting what, you're just getting whatever the chef brings to you. I mean, I just did that on the Disney Wish on Shantae. It's a prefix tasting menu, and it was absolutely outstanding. I mean, this like each dish was like a work of art.
Right. That's a curated meal, not just a work of
Yeah.
art. It's a specific order and there's timing in between and there's palate cleansers. And for those people who aren't foodies, they're probably rolling their eyes at us, but it makes a difference.
Yeah. And I mean, before I said, I don't want to have a cute experience. Like, I don't need a cute experience like sci-fi dine-in. I want to have a stellar experience where I'm like reliving that meal in my mind, like over and over again. And on Shantae is that. And again, for as much as I love California Grill, I'm not reliving my prefix meals in my mind because I'm not ordering the way I want to. I want to go sit at the bar and order like 4 appetizers, have a couple of glasses of wine and leave. I don't want to order an appetizer and then an entree and a dessert.
Makes sense. So let me ask you a question. Have you had any surprising standouts, somewhere you just found yourself because there was a reservation or because you were under pressure and it turned out to be way better than you thought it would be? Because we had one that I think will surprise everyone.
So I had a surprising, and it wasn't that that it was like the only thing available. It was again the trip that I did with my kids when they were inviting their friends and they were kind of curating a list of dining that they thought would be like fun for their friends. And one of them was the San Angel Inn in Mexico, which I was not excited about because I thought I've been there before. It's bad Mexican food that's overpriced. And I was actually really pleasantly surprised by my meal. And it is a fun, like, and that's like kind of a fun atmosphere, and it is dark. So it's like, this is kind of going the opposite of everything I said about sci-fi dine-in, but it's a different type of ambiance and the food was good. So I can like deal with that. It was so good that I actually went back by myself once when I was there for a travel agency training, and I had some time before like our next session, And that time, like that was like the only thing that was available at that time. But I took it because I was like, ooh, when I went that last time, it was really good. And when I went that time, it was just as good. So that is something that has surprised me because historically I felt like that restaurant has been bad, not just like underwhelming, just like bad. So I that is a recent one.
We ate there once, and I didn't think the meal was bad at all. I thought it was quite good. It was not disappointing. The funny thing, I think it was the juxtaposition of sitting down there at like 5 or 5:30 in this cool, dark atmosphere, and it was very dark, you're right, and then walking back outside the Mexican pavilion, and it was 400,000 degrees in the shade at like 6 o'clock at night, and for some reason, like, it just didn't click with me, so I think it affected the whole experience.
Yeah.
For us, and this place gets raked across the coals all the time. And I don't remember if we showed up late and had to get something or took an option on an early flight. I don't remember, but it was our first night. We brought the kids down to Disney Springs to get something to eat because some sort of plan got mixed up. And the only thing available, oh, speaking of, I'm going to back up a second. Paradiso 37, absolute trash. Don't go there. Complete disappointment. That is one of the ones now that I'm thinking about it that is a disaster. Just don't even bother. But back to my original story. We could only get a reservation at Maria and Enzo's. And that has not gotten good reviews. It has not been well loved. It's kind of the also ran in Disney Springs because there's a lot of tables. We had a surprisingly good meal there. The server was hugely attentive. The kids had a big giant charcuterie board that was all very good meats. All of our meals were excellent. And I walked in there fully expected to be underwhelmed. And I wasn't. It was surprisingly good. It was better than average, which was a shock to me based on everything I had heard and read about it.
I think that the only I've only been to Enzo's Hideaway, and I think it was
Yeah, it was with you.
It was
I had
with
dinner at
you.
Enzo's Hideaway in January. I snuck out. And it was decent. It wasn't bad at all. But I think Enzo's Hideaway, they share the same kitchens. There's a lot of things across the menu. But I think when I go into Enzo's, it's the same thing. It's appetizers. Everyone's having a cocktail and we just eat small plates. But we sat down for a full meal at Maria and Enzo's. And it kind of shocked me, to be honest with you. It was good.
I've never been there. I have a tendency to stay away from Italian restaurants at Disney because there is excellent Italian food like on every corner where I live. And I just can't justify like even Il Molino, there's one in New York, and I don't go to the one in New York because it's like a chain Italian, high-end chain Italian restaurant. I want to go to like the authentic like mom and pop shop
Yeah, it's
Italian
like seafood
restaurant.
places in New England. Like I'm not going to Red Lobster. Like it's just not happening living in New
Right.
England.
Right. So I don't really go to them. And that's why, I mean, I know that you and Kathleen and Scott, like you love Trattoria so much. And it's fine. And like every time I go, I'm like, well, this is good, but it's just not where I want to be eating because I feel like even if that's good, the food that I get at my local pizzeria is even better and cheaper. And I want to have a different experience at Disney than just having like okay Italian food that's overpriced.
No, and it makes perfect sense. And we've also, I'm not that far north of you. We've also got some amazing local mom and pop Italian places. But it's funny with Trattoria, I said earlier in the episode that nothing ruins a restaurant for me more than inconsistency. I don't think Trattoria is amazing. I don't think it's stunning. I think it's very good food. But I think our first visit to Trattoria was like 2013 or 2014. I have never once had a bad meal there. And if you want to drive me away from a restaurant, be inconsistent. If you want to have my business, at least be consistent so I know what I'm getting every time I walk through the door. It's not knock your socks off Italian, but it is consistently good, excellent service every time we go. And that's the flip side of it. I'll keep showing up for consistency.
So I know that that's one of your go-to that you go to almost every trip. What are the other restaurants? Like, would you say that's like your number one kind of like you book it every trip or like, you know, one of your favorites?
So we booked that just about every trip. And I think there's some nostalgia in there too. Our first ever family trip we were staying at Yacht Club and that was the meal our first night. and I had a little baby Mackenzie that was asleep in a high chair and a really little Luke that was asleep in my lap, and we had our meal there. So I think there's always going to be that part of it. But the kids, if I don't book Tepanito for the kids every single trip, they're going to murder me in my sleep. They love Tepanito. And again, probably overpriced. I'm still a little peeved that in January they threw an entire pot of soy sauce across my daughter and didn't even comp us a dessert, just said sorry, cleaned it up and went on their way. But the kids love Tepanito. But with that said, they love hibachi at home too. Hibachi's never a loser here. I think they like the show and everything that goes on there as much as they like the food, but they will finish their plate every time we go. So yeah, that's a must do for us. And I think everything else is variable, but those two, I think almost always end up on our meal rotation during a trip. Oh, and Rosa. Rosa has gone up there as well too for us.
I have three that are like my standard go-tos, and they are California Grill, Wine Bar George, and Sanaa. I think Sanaa is, again, like talking about consistency. You know what you're getting every time you walk in there. I think the restaurant is beautiful. It's fun if you can see an animal walk by, if you were just, dining and you see a giraffe walking by. But I think that it's just a unique experience and it's different and actually has like some pretty healthy options on the menu, which are hard to come by. So those are three that are definite, like staple go-to favorites. Citrico's had a spot, and last time I was there, my entree was so bad and it was inedible. I sent it back, and what they brought me in return was good, but that kind of like colored my judgment, because when you have something that's so bad, kind of like your Chef Mickey's experience, I'm like, how do you even serve something that's like this? And then try to justify to me why it's like this, that like, and kind of make it like it's my fault. That I
Yeah,
don't
like you
it.
obviously didn't know what you were
Yeah.
ordering. That's how the chef
Right.
prepares it.
Yeah, I'm like, this is inedible. But yeah, those three: California Grill, Wine Bar George, and I know I talk about Wine Bar George a lot, but I just need to shout out Wine Bar George, because I think that the fact that that it is not owned by some corporation, it is not a chain.
It's actually George.
It is owned by George, and that he is there, and that he will seat you at your table. He will bus your table. I did the wine tasting experience with him. He is a lovely person. And I just love that there is this independently owned restaurant on Disney property that is consistently excellent. So it's part of why I like going there, because I don't feel like I'm getting this mass produced experience. I'm getting a very warm, authentic, just intimate experience that I think is excellent. So I need to shout it out.
Yeah, Art Smith came over to our table the last time we were there and just hung with us for a while. It was like, who's that guy shuffling around doing all the takeout orders and bussing tables? So it was Art. He was just there making sure everything was running right. It's funny you mentioned Sanaa. Our anniversary was this weekend, and I asked Emily where she wanted to go to dinner, and she said Sanaa. I told her that was probably a little too much, but we'd get there eventually.
Well, happy anniversary, belatedly.
Yeah, thanks. All right, does that wrap it up?
I think that wraps it up.
All right,
I'm sure that there are other restaurants that I would never set foot in again, but I think that I thought that there was one in Hollywood Studios that
I mentioned Hollywood and Vine. It was It was a terrible experience. It was not as bad as Chef Mickey's, but it was right up there. I now understand why it has a Hollywood and Slime moniker. It was not good at all. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I have no reason to ever go there again. I went there for my kids because Doc McStuffins used to be there, and Emma was a huge Doc McStuffins fan. But
yep, that's where we are. With the character meals can now take a back seat. The kids are getting older, thank goodness.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find myself back there if I one day become a grandparent. But for now, I don't. I forgot that it existed. There are restaurants that yeah. So yeah, we can wrap it up.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for playing along. As always, if you could head on over to Apple Podcast, give us a 5-star review, that would be stupendous. Amy?
And if you don't already belong to our Facebook group, you can find us over there at DVC Clubhouse. We are also on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And until next time, we'll DVC you real soon.
See you guys.
And so our journey comes to an end.
Oh, no, please, can't we go back to page 1 and do it all over again?
Started this thing together, and that's how we'll finish it.
Because that, my friends, is where the magic lives.